Life in the kingdom became peaceful and hopeful again. Jake and Zara worked closely together, showing everyone the strength of their partnership. Their bond had become an inspiration, proving that cooperation and understanding between humans and the Xel'Naga were possible. One clear evening, Jake and Zara were invited to a neighboring planet for a significant diplomatic event. It was an important gathering aimed at building stronger alliances with nearby worlds. Jake felt excited but slightly nervous about representing the kingdom alongside Zara. As their ship approached the planet, Jake admired the beautiful blue and green world that grew larger outside the viewing window. Zara stood next to him, calm and confident, her presence comforting. "Everything will go well, Jake," Zara reassured him gently, sensing his anxiety. "We are doing important work. Our message is powerful." Jake nodded, feeling encouraged by her words. When their ship landed, they were greeted warmly by officials who welcomed them into a large conference hall filled with representatives from various planets. Throughout the gathering, Jake and Zara spoke passionately about unity and cooperation, sharing their own experiences. Their sincerity touched many in the audience, drawing respect and admiration. Jake felt proud standing beside Zara, knowing how deeply she believed in their shared purpose. After the official speeches, a grand banquet was held. Jake and Zara mingled with delegates, engaging in thoughtful conversations about alliances and peace. They found many allies willing to support their vision. As the banquet continued, a young diplomat named Raina from a distant planet approached them hesitantly. She appeared nervous but determined. "Excuse me," Raina began softly. "May I speak with you both privately?" Jake and Zara exchanged curious glances but agreed readily. Raina led them to a quiet corner, speaking quietly so no one else could hear. "I must warn you," Raina said urgently. "There are factions here who oppose your ideas. They have plans to disrupt the gathering tonight." Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but he stayed calm. Zara responded calmly, her voice steady and reassuring. "Thank you, Raina. Do you know their intentions?" Raina nodded gravely. "They want to create chaos, hoping to discredit your message and break the growing alliances." Zara's face grew serious, understanding the danger. "We must alert security immediately." Jake quickly agreed, feeling protective. They discreetly informed the security team, who began quietly increasing their presence and vigilance. Hours passed peacefully, but Jake remained watchful, never fully relaxing. Just as he began hoping, the threat was false. Sudden shouting erupted at the edge of the banquet hall. Chaos broke out as a small group of agitators attempted to cause panic. Jake instinctively moved closer to Zara, determined to protect her. Zara, however, stepped forward confidently, raising her hand to signal calm. "Please remain calm." Zara's voice rang out clearly and firmly. "We must not let fear divide us. Stand together, stay strong." Her words had an immediate effect, steadying the crowd. The security team swiftly handled the troublemakers, restoring peace. Jake admired Zara's courage and leadership, feeling pride and affection well up inside him. Afterward, delegates expressed their gratitude and admiration for Zara's composed handling of the crisis. Her reputation as a true leader strengthened significantly, bringing greater support for their mission. Returning to their ship later, Jake gently took Zara's hand. "You were incredible today," he said warmly. "You inspire everyone around you, especially me." Zara smiled softly, squeezing his hand. "I couldn't do any of this without you by my side, Jake. You give me strength and courage." Their bond deepened. Even further during their journey home, both feeling grateful for the trust and partnership they shared. Upon arriving back at the palace, King Tyler greeted them warmly. "I heard about your brave actions. You have both done wonderfully, making us all proud." Days later, news spread throughout the kingdom about Jake and Zara's courage at the diplomatic gathering. Citizens celebrated their leaders, filled with pride and hope for the future. However, despite their success, Jake and Zara remained aware of ongoing challenges. They knew their journey toward lasting peace required constant effort. One evening, Jake sat quietly with Zara in their favorite garden spot, looking up at the stars. Zara seemed deep in thought, her silver eyes reflective. "Jake," she began quietly, "I wonder if there will ever be complete peace." Jake considered her words carefully before responding. "Perhaps not complete peace, Zara, but we've shown that understanding and trust can overcome fear and doubt. Each step forward matters greatly." Zara sighed softly, leaning against him. "You're right. Each step matters, and every effort brings us closer." Jake held her gently, enjoying the comfort of their closeness. "Together, we'll keep pushing forward. We'll never stop believing in our vision." Their words filled them both with renewed determination. They knew their path wouldn't always be easy, but they also knew that facing challenges together would make them stronger. As weeks passed, Jake and Zara continued their hard work. Their efforts brought visible improvements to the kingdom, earning widespread praise and admiration. Their relationship also grew deeper, becoming a powerful symbol of unity and love. One afternoon, King Taller called them into his private chamber. His face showed warmth and pride as he addressed them. "Jake, Zara, your achievements have been remarkable. You've united not only your hearts, but also our people. I've decided it is time for you both to formally lead together." Jake felt surprise and excitement surge through him. Zara's eyes widened slightly, clearly moved by her father's words. King Taller smiled kindly. "Your coronation will show everyone that the future belongs to those who choose peace, love, and unity." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Zara hugged her father warmly. "Thank you, Father. This means so much to us." Jake stepped forward, shaking the king's hand firmly. "We promise to do everything we can to honor your trust." Preparations for their coronation began immediately, excitement spreading quickly throughout the kingdom. Citizens eagerly anticipated the event, celebrating the young couple who had already done so much for their world. On the morning of the coronation, Jake and Zara dressed in beautiful ceremonial garments, both feeling nervous yet excited. They stood side by side before their people, ready to officially take on their shared responsibilities. King Taller stepped forward, addressing the crowd with pride and affection. "Today, we celebrate not just the joining of two hearts, but the unity of our worlds. Together, Jake and Zara will lead us into a brighter future." Cheers erupted from the crowd, their excitement contagious. Jake looked into Zara's shining eyes, feeling immense joy and determination. They were ready to face whatever lay ahead, confident that their love and unity would guide them through any challenge. Standing side by side, they embraced their new roles with hope and courage, ready to continue building the peaceful future they had always dreamed of together. John Carter woke early, feeling restless after the recent confrontation with Lord Kalen. He knew the resistance against him, and Queen Alara was not entirely over. Each day brought new challenges, but John was determined not to let these difficulties weaken their union or his responsibilities toward Prince Liner. He stood by his window, looking out over the beautiful gardens. Trying to clear his mind. After a short while, John heard soft footsteps approaching, and the door opened quietly. Queen Alara entered the room, her expression gentle and understanding. "You are awake early," she remarked softly, coming to stand beside him at the window. "I couldn't sleep," John admitted quietly. "I worry that Lord Kalen and his followers will never accept me." Alara placed a comforting hand on John's shoulder. "They will come around in time. They must see your true heart and understand your sincerity." John sighed deeply, turning to face her directly. "I will do everything I can, Alara. I want your people to trust me fully, to understand that my only goal is peace and the well-being of our family." "I know that, John," Alara said firmly. "Your actions already prove this clearly." Later that day, John attended another council meeting, knowing Lord Kalen and his supporters would be present. He entered the hall confidently, standing beside Queen Alara, ready to face any further challenges. Lord Kalen immediately stepped forward, his expression determined and stubborn. "Queen Alara," he began sharply, "our traditions and customs are being undermined by this human. Our people need reassurance that our heritage will not be lost." Alara stood tall and proud, addressing Kalen calmly but firmly. Lord Kalen, traditions and customs grow stronger when shared. John Carter has learned our ways and shown nothing but respect for them. Kalen hesitated for a moment, clearly struggling with his emotions. Finally, he spoke, his voice quieter but still defiant. He may have learned some of our ways, but he will never truly understand us. John stepped forward, addressing the council openly. I understand your concerns, Lord Kalen, but I assure you, I wish only to strengthen our alliance and to protect Prince Liner, the future of your empire. The council murmured among themselves, clearly divided on the issue. Finally, an elderly Zilarian noble named Lady Seraphina stood and addressed the gathering. Perhaps it is time we truly test John Carter's commitment, she suggested gently. If he can pass our most sacred test, he will have proven his sincerity. Murmurs of agreement spread throughout the hall. John glanced uncertainly at Alara, who gave him a reassuring nod. I accept this challenge, John announced confidently, though he felt uncertain inside. Tell me what I must do. Lady Seraphina stepped forward, her voice calm and clear. You must travel to the Cave of Reflections. It is a sacred place that reveals the true heart of those who enter. If your intentions are pure, the cave will show it clearly to us all. John nodded slowly, understanding the seriousness of the task ahead. I will do it. Early the next morning, John set out for the Cave of Reflections, accompanied only by a small group of guards and Lady Seraphina herself. The journey was long and difficult, taking them far from the comforts of the palace. As they traveled, John spoke openly with Lady Seraphina, learning more about Zilarian history and traditions. She, in turn, listened carefully as John shared stories about Earth, growing more comfortable with him as the hours passed. Finally, they reached the cave entrance, hidden deep within a dense forest. Lady Seraphina stood beside John, her expression serious but kind. You must enter alone, she explained gently. The cave will show your true self. Be honest, John Carter. Taking a deep breath, John stepped into the cave, feeling his heart pounding. The air inside was cool, and a soft, glowing light filled the space around him. Images began appearing along the walls, memories of his past, his arrival on Zilaria, and his moments spent with Alara and Liner. John watched quietly, deeply moved by seeing his own life reflected before him. Then, the images changed. He saw potential futures, peaceful scenes of humans and Zilarians living and working together, and happier moments with Alara and Prince Liner as a family. But suddenly, a darker vision appeared, showing conflict and destruction caused by hatred and fear. In the midst of these visions, John saw himself clearly, standing strong beside Alara, protecting their family and promoting peace. The cave's message became clear to John. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Emerging from the cave, he found Lady Seraphina and the guards waiting expectantly. Did you see your true heart, John Carter? Lady Seraphina asked carefully. Yes, John replied firmly. I saw peace, unity, and family. My path is clear. Lady Seraphina smiled warmly, clearly pleased. Then let us return. Your vision will be shared with all. Upon returning to the palace, John stood again before the council, sharing what he had seen. He spoke openly, his words sincere and heartfelt. Even Lord Kalen listened quietly, seemingly moved by John's honesty. Queen Alara stepped forward, her voice filled with pride and affection. John Carter has shown us his true heart. He desires only peace and unity. Let us move forward together, trusting in this alliance. The council members nodded in agreement, their faces softened with newfound respect. Even Lord Kalen finally lowered his gaze, nodding slowly in reluctant acceptance. That evening, John and Alara sat together quietly, relieved and grateful for the council's support. Prince Liner played happily nearby, his laughter echoing softly through the room. Thank you, John, Alara said gently, taking his hand. You have done so much for us. Your courage and honesty have won over even the most stubborn hearts. John smiled softly, feeling a deep sense of peace. It was your trust that gave me strength, Alara. Together we can overcome anything. She leaned closer, her voice tender and sincere. Yes, John. Together. As they sat quietly watching Liner play, John knew his journey was far from over. Challenges would always arise, but he now faced them with confidence and hope. He had found his true family, his true purpose, and with Elara by his side, he was ready to build a future filled with peace and unity, bridging the gap between two worlds. John Carter found himself increasingly busy in the days that followed. His new role in the Zalarian palace brought responsibilities he had never imagined. Each day was filled with meetings, lessons about Zalarian customs, and taking care of Prince. Liner, despite the heavy workload, he found deep satisfaction in his tasks. The palace, once strange and intimidating, slowly became familiar and comfortable. His relationship with Queen Elara also began to grow stronger. They often spent time together, discussing ways to blend their different cultures. John admired Elara's wisdom and strength as a leader, while she appreciated John's kindness and sincerity. Together, they hoped to create lasting peace between. Their two worlds dot, however, not everyone in the Zalarian court approved of their union. Lord Kalen and a small group of nobles continued to show resistance. They believed humans were not trustworthy and that John's presence weakened their traditions. Lord Kalen, in particular, openly criticized Queen Elara's decision whenever he could. One afternoon, John was attending a lesson on Zalarian history when a servant rushed in, breathing heavily. Sir John, Prince Liner is ill. The Queen requests, "You come immediately." John felt his heart leap into his throat. Without hesitation, he hurried through the palace halls, worry filling every step. He found Elara anxiously pacing beside Liner's crib. The infant prince was pale, weakly crying, and clearly unwell. "John, he has a fever," Elara whispered urgently, her eyes wide with fear. "Our healers tried their methods, but nothing has worked." "Let me see him," John said gently, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. He carefully lifted Liner, noticing how warm the child felt. Quickly recalling his medical training, John began to examine the baby carefully. "It's an infection, John," concluded after a careful assessment. "I believe I have something from my supplies that can help him." "Please hurry," Elara urged, her voice trembling slightly. John raced to his room and swiftly returned with medicine from Earth. Gently, he gave the medicine to Prince Liner, carefully monitoring the child's response. As the hours passed, Liner's fever began to subside, his breathing becoming steady once more. Relief filled the room, and tears of gratitude filled Elara's eyes. "Thank you, John," she whispered, holding her son's tiny hand. "Once again, you have saved my child." But news of Liner's illness quickly spread through the palace, reaching Lord Kalen and his followers. Seeing another opportunity to criticize John, Kalen demanded an audience with Queen Elara. "Your Majesty," Kalen said sharply, standing defiantly. "Before the Queen? The human clearly brings illness and weakness to our palace. How long must we tolerate his presence?" John stepped forward calmly, addressing Kalen directly. "Lord Kalen, Prince Liner's illness was natural and unrelated to my presence. I only wish to help and protect him." "Your intentions do not change the danger you pose," Kalen argued stubbornly, facing the gathered nobles. "Our traditions must remain pure, free of human influence." Elara's patience wore thin as she stood proudly, her voice firm. "Lord Kalen, John has done nothing but support and care for my son. He has earned my trust and gratitude. If you continue to challenge this alliance, you challenge me directly." The room fell silent. Even Lord Kalen seemed startled by the Queen's clear support for John. Slowly, he stepped back, bowing reluctantly. "Forgive me, Your Majesty," Kalen muttered, his eyes cold and unforgiving. "I speak only from concern for our people." The audience dispersed, leaving John and Elara standing quietly together. She turned to him, her expression gentle yet determined. "We will overcome this, John," she reassured him softly. "Kalen's voice may be loud, but our unity will speak louder." I trust you, Elara, John replied warmly. Together, we can show everyone that our alliance is strong and beneficial. Over the following weeks, John continued his efforts to build trust among the Zilarians. He participated in public events, learning their ways and sharing human customs openly. His sincerity slowly won the hearts of many in the court, but Kalen's faction remained stubborn. One evening, as John was preparing to retire for the night, he heard soft footsteps approaching his room. Opening the door, he found a nervous-looking young servant. Sir John, the servant whispered anxiously, I overheard Lord Kalen and others plotting against you. They plan to discredit you publicly tomorrow. John thanked the servant sincerely, his heart sinking at the news. He knew Kalen's plots were becoming increasingly dangerous, and he worried for Elara and Liner's safety. He spent a restless night, considering how best to face this new challenge. The next morning, during a public gathering in the palace's great hall, Kalen dramatically stepped forward, capturing everyone's attention. Your Majesty, fellow nobles, Kalen announced loudly, I have evidence that the human John Carter has been deceiving us. He does not truly respect our ways, but seeks to control our queen and empire. Gasps of shock and whispers filled the hall. Elara stood firmly, her gaze fierce. Present your evidence, Lord Kalen. Kalen produced a document, supposedly written by John, outlining a plan to influence Zilarian customs and seize power gradually. John stepped forward calmly, examining the document closely. This is not my writing, he declared firmly. I have never seen this before. Of course you deny it, Kalen sneered. But can you prove otherwise? John hesitated briefly, searching for a solution. Suddenly, inspiration struck. Yes, I can. Elara, you have seen my handwriting many times. Compare it. You will see the difference. Elara quickly examined the document, and then held it up. Indeed, this is not John's handwriting. Lord Kalen, you are mistaken or lying. The nobles murmured disapprovingly at Kalen, whose face turned red with embarrassment and anger. Enough, Elara commanded sharply. John Carter has proven his loyalty and kindness many times over. These baseless accusations must end. Defeated, Kalen withdrew silently, casting one last hateful glance toward John. That night, Elara visited John privately once more. I am sorry for today's incident, she said gently, her voice filled with sincerity. Kalen's actions were shameful. John smiled warmly, shaking his head. You have nothing to apologize for, Elara. We faced this together, just as you promised. She smiled softly, placing her hand on his shoulder. Yes, together. No matter what challenges come, we will meet them side by side. John nodded firmly, feeling renewed confidence in their shared strength. He knew that the path ahead was still filled with obstacles, but he no longer feared them. With Elara beside him, he felt ready to face whatever came next, determined to protect their family and ensure peace between their two worlds. John Carter woke early the next morning, still trying to grasp the reality of what had happened the day before. He sat up in his luxurious new room within Queen Elara's palace, looking around at the beautifully decorated walls and lavish furnishings. Everything felt unreal, as if it were all just a dream. But the soft knocking at his door reminded him this was indeed real. Come in, John called gently, rising from his bed. A young Zilarian attendant entered cautiously, bowing respectfully. Good morning, Sir John. Queen Elara requests your presence in the garden. Thank you, John said with a friendly smile. He quickly dressed in the elegant clothing provided for him, noticing how comfortable and perfectly fitted they were. He then followed the attendant through the palace's hallways, trying not to appear overwhelmed by the grandeur around him. When he stepped into the garden, John was amazed by its beauty. Exotic plants with colorful blossoms grew in neat rows, their gentle fragrance filling the air. At the center stood Queen Elara, holding Prince Liner, who immediately smiled upon seeing John. Good morning, John, Elara greeted warmly. I trust you rested well. Yes, Your Majesty, John replied respectfully. Thank you for your kindness. She laughed softly, waving off his formality. Please, call me Alara. There is no need for such formalities between us now. John relaxed slightly, smiling back. Thank you, Alara. Prince Liner cooed and reached out for John, causing Alara to smile brightly. It seems he has already become quite fond of you. John gently took the infant into his arms, feeling a surge of affection for the child. I admit, I've grown fond of him too. He's a wonderful baby. Alara watched them thoughtfully for a moment before speaking again. Today will be challenging, John. Many of my people still have doubts about our union. We must show them the strength and sincerity of our decision. John nodded firmly, understanding the seriousness of the situation. I am ready to do whatever is necessary. They spent the morning together, strolling through the garden and speaking openly about their cultures and lives. John learned more about Zilarian customs and traditions, while Alara listened carefully as John described Earth and its diverse peoples. Despite their differences, they discovered many shared values and hopes. Later that afternoon, a meeting was held in the Grand Hall of the palace. Nobles and officials filled the room, their faces showing a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Queen Alara entered, her presence commanding attention, with John by her side carrying Prince Liner. I understand your concerns, Alara began, her voice strong and clear. But John Carter has proven himself trustworthy and compassionate. Our marriage will not only ensure peace, but will also strengthen our empire. Murmurs filled the room, some approving, others doubtful. One noble, Lord Kalen, stepped forward boldly. Your Majesty, how can we trust an alliance based on a whim? How do we know this human truly cares for Zilarians and our traditions? John felt all eyes turn toward him. He stepped forward calmly, facing Lord Kalen directly. I understand your doubts, Lord Kalen. You have every right to question me. But I promise you, my intentions are sincere. I have already begun learning your ways, and I intend to respect and honor them fully. Lord Kalen raised an eyebrow skeptically. Words are easily spoken, human. Actions speak louder. John took a deep breath and turned to Alara, nodding firmly. She understood his silent request and gave him an encouraging smile. Holding Prince Liner carefully, John addressed the gathered crowd. Let my actions speak then, John announced. I pledge to raise Prince Liner not only with compassion, but also with deep respect for Zilarian customs. Judge me by how I fulfill this promise. Surprised murmurs rippled through the audience. Many seemed impressed by John's courage and sincerity, but others remained unconvinced. Still, Lord Kalen nodded slowly, considering John's words carefully. Very well, Lord Kalen conceded cautiously. We will watch closely, John Carter. Your actions will indeed decide our opinions. As the assembly dispersed, John exhaled deeply, feeling both relieved and determined. Alara placed a reassuring hand on his arm, her touch gentle but firm. You did well, she whispered warmly. You show courage and honesty. My people will come to trust you, given time. John smiled gratefully, grateful for her support. I truly hope so, Alara. That evening, John returned to his chambers, feeling emotionally drained but hopeful. Just as he began to unwind, a quiet knock sounded at the door. He opened it to find Queen Alara, holding Prince Liner, looking slightly nervous yet determined. May we come in? She asked softly. Of course, John replied, stepping aside quickly. They sat together near a wide window, watching the stars glowing softly in the night sky. Liner fell asleep quickly, nestled safely in John's arms. Alara sighed quietly, leaning back comfortably. I must confess, John, I feared today greatly, she admitted softly, but you handled yourself better than I could have hoped. John smiled gently. I feared it too, but we faced it together, and that made it easier. Alara looked at him warmly. Yes, together. I believe that is how we will overcome all our challenges. A comfortable silence settled between them, a quiet understanding growing stronger. John felt his heart open further, realizing he was beginning to genuinely care for the queen beside him. Elara, John began carefully, this situation is new and unusual for both of us. But I want you to know my commitment is real. She met his eyes, sincerity shining clearly. I never doubted that, John. From the moment you soothed my child, I knew you were special. They spoke softly into the night, sharing their dreams and fears, slowly building trust and friendship. Eventually, Elara rose quietly, careful not to disturb her sleeping son. Thank you for this evening, John, she whispered gently. You have eased many of my fears. You have done the same for me, John replied sincerely. Sleep well, Elara. She left his room quietly, leaving John with a sense of peace he had not felt since arriving on this distant planet. Carefully placing Prince Liner into the nearby crib, he watched the infant sleep peacefully, marveling at the unexpected direction his life had taken. John Carter realized then that, despite the challenges ahead, he was ready. He had found a new purpose, a family he had never anticipated, and a chance to bring peace and unity between two vastly different worlds. As he settled into bed, he smiled softly to himself, knowing this was only the beginning of a remarkable journey. John Carter stood nervously outside the large, ornate doors of the royal chambers. His heart raced, and his palms felt sweaty. He was just a medic, an ordinary human who had only come to this distant planet as part of a peace delegation. Now, he found himself summoned by Queen Elara herself. He had never imagined he would ever meet someone so important, let alone the ruler of an entire alien empire. The guards opened the doors slowly, revealing an impressive and intimidating room. The walls sparkled with unfamiliar decorations, shimmering under strange lights. The air smelled faintly sweet, a gentle fragrance he couldn't recognize. In the center of the room sat Queen Elara, surrounded by worried-looking alien caregivers and servants. Beside her, lying in a beautifully crafted cradle, was a small alien baby. The child's cries echoed loudly, filling every corner of the chamber. Queen Elara's eyes met John's immediately. Her look was intense and desperate. She was tall and graceful, her skin a soft shade of lavender, her silver hair flowing elegantly around her shoulders. Her voice was firm, yet anxious when she spoke. "Human, my child will not stop crying," she said, her words sounding strained. "My healers cannot soothe him, and nothing seems to help. They have tried everything, our people. No, yet he cries without end." John stepped forward cautiously, bowing respectfully. "Your Majesty, I will do my best to help." Elara nodded slowly, watching him closely as he approached the crying baby. The infant's name was Prince Liner. John leaned over the cradle, looking closely at the small alien child. Prince Liner's skin was pale, a lighter shade than his mother's, and his tiny hands waved in distress. John gently touched the infant's forehead, noticing how warm it felt. He carefully lifted the small child into his arms, holding him close. Royal caregivers whispered anxiously among themselves, worried about this human handling their prince. Queen Elara silenced them with a single glance. She was desperate enough to trust this stranger from Earth, hoping his methods could succeed where hers had failed. John began to hum softly, a gentle melody his mother had sung to him long ago when he was a small boy back on Earth. He rocked Prince Liner gently in his arms, making soothing sounds. To everyone's surprise, the crying slowly became softer, turning into small sniffles and eventually silence. Prince Liner's eyes opened wide, looking up curiously at John's face. He reached out with tiny hands, grabbing John's finger softly. A sigh of relief filled the room, the tension slowly melting away. Queen Elara's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. She stood from her throne, approaching John slowly. "You have accomplished what none of our greatest healers could do," she said softly, looking at John with new respect and wonder. "Tell me, what is your name, human?" "My name is John Carter, Your Majesty," he replied respectfully, still gently rocking the now peaceful prince. Queen Elara studied him carefully, considering something deeply. Then she took a deep breath and spoke in a voice clear and firm, ensuring all present could hear her words. John Carter, you have provided a great service to me and my child. I offer you something in return, something of great importance. She paused, her voice lowering slightly, her words surprising everyone who heard. Them. If you agree to continue caring for my child and ensuring he remains peaceful, I will marry you. This will form an alliance between our people and yours, bringing lasting peace. The announcement left John stunned, unable to speak at first. He was just an ordinary man, a medic with no noble blood or status. Yet now, the ruler of an entire empire was offering herself in marriage to him simply because he had soothed her crying child. The idea was overwhelming. Your Majesty, John finally managed to say, his voice filled with surprise and uncertainty. Are you certain of this decision? You know nothing about me. Elara nodded firmly, her eyes unwavering. I am certain. I have seen your heart in your actions, your kindness, and your compassion. Those are qualities my people need, qualities I trust. John hesitated, looking around at the faces of the astonished aliens gathered around him. They seemed as shocked as he felt. He understood the magnitude of Queen Elara's offer. This was not merely about marrying a queen, but about securing peace between their two races. He looked back down at Prince Liner, who was now sleeping peacefully, safe and calm in his arms. Slowly he nodded his head, accepting her offer. I accept, Your Majesty. I promise to do my best to serve you and your people. Queen Elara smiled warmly for the first time, relief evident in her expression. Then it is done. From this moment forward, you are my chosen husband and the father. To my son, Prince Liner. Whispers and murmurs filled the chamber as news of the surprising decision began to spread through the palace. John felt his heart racing once again, but this time not with fear, but with hope and determination. He had come to this planet as just a medic, but now he had a chance to make a real difference. He carefully placed Prince Liner back into his cradle, ensuring he was comfortable. Elara moved closer, standing beside him as they looked down at her son together. Thank you, John Carter, she said softly, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. You have given us all a great gift today. John smiled back at her, feeling strangely calm despite the unusual circumstances. His life had changed in an instant, but he knew this was the beginning of something truly important. Peace was within reach, and he was ready to help build a bridge between humans and Zarians. As he stood beside Queen Elara, surrounded by the amazed and curious eyes of her people, John realized he had found a purpose far greater than he had ever imagined possible. This was his new life, his new family, and he would do everything he could to protect and cherish them. The peace of two worlds now rested in their hands. Life in the community returned to normal after Officer Ryan and his soldiers departed peacefully. Jake and Lyra continued to work closely with the villagers, using their skills to improve everyone's lives. Trust grew stronger among the community, and happiness became a regular part of their days. However, Jake could not shake the feeling that their peace might not last forever. He knew well that not everyone outside their community would easily accept Lyra's powers. So, he stayed cautious, always preparing quietly for any challenges that might come their way. One quiet evening, as the sun set gently over the trees, Jake noticed a small group approaching from the distance. He quickly recognized Captain Adams, accompanied by several senior officers from the base. Jake's heart filled with uncertainty, but he approached them calmly, Lyra close by his side. Captain Adams, Jake greeted respectfully. We didn't expect to see you here. Captain Adams nodded solemnly. We've come to speak with you and Lyra. May we sit and talk? Jake guided the officers to a quiet area near the village center. They all sat down with villagers cautiously watching from a distance. Captain Adams cleared his throat, clearly uneasy. We've come with a request, he began slowly. The Valorians have intensified their attacks, and we're losing many lives. Lyra, your powers could greatly help us protect our people. Will you consider returning to help? Lyra looked at Jake nervously, then back at the captain. I want to help, Captain, but I'm afraid of how others might treat me again. Captain Adams nodded understandingly. Things have changed, Lyra. Officer Ryan spoke highly of your kindness and your healing powers. Many at the base regret how they treated you. They desperately need your help now. Jake felt uncertain, but understood the importance of helping others. He gently took Lyra's hand, giving her strength. It's your decision, Lyra. I'll support you no matter what. Lyra thought carefully for a moment before finally nodding. I'll help. But Jake stays with me. Together, we'll do everything we can. Captain Adams smiled with relief, agreeing quickly. Of course. Thank you both. Your help means more than you know. The next morning, Jake and Lyra prepared to leave, reassuring their friends in the village that they would return soon. The villagers expressed heartfelt gratitude and understanding, knowing their help was needed elsewhere. Upon returning to the base, Jake noticed a clear change in how people viewed Lyra. Soldiers greeted her respectfully, some even warmly, thanking her for coming back to help. Jake felt relieved to see the genuine acceptance from those around them. Immediately, they began working alongside the soldiers, using Lyra's remarkable abilities to heal injured troops and boost morale. Jake helped strengthen defenses and train others to protect themselves better during battles. Lyra's reputation quickly grew, with everyone witnessing her kindness and bravery firsthand. Soldiers who once doubted her now praised her openly, realizing their previous mistakes. The base became stronger, more united, and hopeful. But peace rarely lasted long in war. A sudden attack by Valorian forces caught them off guard late one night. Alarms blared, and soldiers quickly mobilized. Jake and Lyra rushed to assist, quickly moving toward the battlefield where chaos had erupted. Amidst the fighting, Lyra courageously moved among wounded soldiers, quickly healing their injuries and offering comfort. Jake stayed close, protecting her as best as he could, fighting fiercely whenever needed. Suddenly, a powerful blast exploded nearby, knocking Jake to the ground. Stunned and dazed, he struggled to stand as a Valorian soldier approached menacingly. Jake's weapon had fallen out of reach, and he prepared himself for the worst. But before the enemy could strike, a gentle yet powerful force pushed the attacker away. Lyra stood tall, her eyes glowing brightly, fiercely protective of Jake and the soldiers around her. With remarkable control, she carefully shielded those around her, preventing further harm without causing injury. The Valorians, astonished and confused by her display of power, hesitated. Lyra spoke clearly, her voice calm and firm. "We don't want war," she declared confidently. "Enough pain and loss have happened. Leave in peace, and we won't pursue you." Confusion spread among the Valorian troops. They had never encountered such power combined with such mercy. Slowly, uncertainly, they began to retreat, leaving the battlefield quietly. The remaining human soldiers watched in awe, realizing the battle had ended without further bloodshed. Many turned to Lyra, admiration clear in their eyes. Jake stood beside her proudly, deeply impressed by her courage and strength. Captain Adams approached, gratitude evident on his face. "You saved many lives today, Lyra. We owe you greatly." Lyra smiled gently, humility in her eyes. "I did only what anyone would do if given the chance. All I ever wanted was peace." As the soldiers gathered to care for their injured comrades, Jake and Lyra stayed together, helping wherever needed. The battle had been intense, but it ended without unnecessary losses, thanks to Lyra's bravery and compassion. Days passed, and Lyra's actions became known throughout the Alliance. Stories of her kindness, courage, and strength spread quickly, inspiring many to reconsider their views on war and peace. Jake remained by her side, always supportive and protective, sharing in her joy and challenges. Yet, despite their recent victory, Jake knew they still had a long path ahead. The Valorians had retreated, but not surrendered entirely. More challenges would come, and Jake understood the importance of being prepared for future confrontations. Late one evening, as Jake and Lyra sat quietly beneath the stars, reflecting on everything they had faced, Jake gently took Lyra's hand. "You've changed everything, Lyra," he whispered warmly. "You've shown us all another way to live without fear and hatred." Lyra leaned softly against Jake, feeling comforted by his presence. "Only because you helped me believe I could do it." Together, beneath the peaceful night sky, they knew they had begun to make a real difference, proving that kindness and understanding could triumph even in times of war. Their hearts filled with quiet hope, determined to keep building a future where everyone could live peacefully and safely.